Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Customer Spotlight webinar, where we'll be showcasing the Edge experience in action. Just to quickly introduce myself, my name is Jordan Thirthin. I'm the Marketing Events Manager here at Edge, and I'll be moderating today's discussion. Joining with us is Dr. John Shen. Dr. John Shen is a board-certified periodontist with advanced training from UCLA and a DDS from the UC San Francisco. He was born in Taiwan and raised in California, and he brings a global perspective and deep clinical expertise to his practice. In addition to running a busy practice and implant surgery clinic, Dr. Shen is a clinical instructor at UCSF and fluent in Mandarin Chinese. Outside of his work, he enjoys time with his wife and daughter. Dr. Shen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, thanks for having me. So just a little bit to talk about how I got started with Edge. The before so I signed up end of 2022. There was my office manager of 5 years suddenly decided to leave, so I got 2 weeks, notice from her. I begged her to stay for an additional 2 weeks, so I had a total of 4 weeks. This was 2 weeks before December 30th, so before the end of the year that she gave me the notice. And prior to this, I had heard about Edge from the Facebook group Dentists in General, and then I was intrigued by this model of having a remote worker that can do more than just insurance verification and more than just insurance stuff, posting payments and stuff like that, but they can also do pretty much anything that I wanted them to do remotely. Because I often overhear the front staff and my office manager on the phone with insurance companies being on hold for a long time and taking up, valuable the phone lines and not being able to get anywhere with insurance companies. It was getting harder and harder, and it was taking a lot of time away from direct patient care in the office from my staff, which I value a lot, right? So I had played around with the idea, but when she gave me the 2 weeks notice, I realized I had no choice. I had to um, sign up with Edge. So I immediately contacted Edge, and they were able to get me, I think, interview three candidates right away within a few days, and then gave me a rundown of everything, how the process works, the cost, what to expect, and then I was able to pick out of the three. Arfa, who's my the ambassador I picked, she was a dentist by training, so it was an obvious choice. And plus, she's very nice and very competent. And so from day one, she was, mounting X-rays on indexes and with no oversight because she already knows what everything looks like. Um, so that was a big plus. And then
That's
and
awesome.
yeah.
And we can jump into Edge a little bit in a little bit too, but I would love to learn more about, your background, how you got into dentistry, and how you got to forming your own practice, kind of in your own words.
Oh,
If you,
okay. No, so
um,
um my father's a periodontist, so it's kind of an easy choice to I see the I see the field, I understand it a little bit more. And then going to dental school, um, really realizing perio is the foundation of, all things dentistry. So I decided to pursue perio and then did my training. Initially, I thought I would, work a few years, as an associate with the in-house perio before I start my practice, but the opportunity came up where I could just take over a turnkey practice. So I did it 4 months out of residency. Yeah, and then initially it was slow to build up, but then once the referrals are stabilized and being in practice for over a decade now, it's um, more or less more or less stable. And um, but yeah, that's how I got into owning my own perio practice.
that's exciting. How big was your team when you started? Was it just you and
It was just me and one assistant, and she
one
was doing
assistant?
everything front, back, chair side, because I wasn't busy. I was just, trying to build up my referral base. And eventually, at one point, I think I had, the team never got more than, one front and two
Hmm.
back assistants. So at the peak, it was probably just the three staff members. I never had a hygienist. I don't think I ever will have a hygienist, but yeah.
What was like how many years to your practice did you start seeing like I think I might need more help here. I might need more staffing. Was it like was there a certain year? Was there a certain amount of patients that you were starting to see?
Yeah, I'll say maybe about 5, 6 years into practice, I realized I needed definitely a second, like a dedicated assistant. Um, to otherwise I can't keep taking my staff away from the front, right? So it
Right.
was but I think about 5, 6 years in, yeah.
Gotcha. And what so that prompted your search for support. Did you find any sort of like I'm curious about what your search was like when you were doing research on other companies, other staffing solutions. Did you find other folks and kind of what drew you to Edge?
Um, the only other company I looked at was one of those insurance ones. I forgot the name. There's a couple of those out there that does only insurance, and that's a big part of dental practice is, you need someone to be very well versed with dental insurance and be able to
Right.
deal with the customer service reps and be able to call them, talk to them, file claims, attachments, and all that stuff. So I knew that was a big part. But what Edge stood out to me was that it was the staff can do anything. They are more it's more flexible. They can do the insurance stuff well, plus do anything else that we require. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people that are new to Edge, I feel like don't realize is that you really could use an Edge employee for anything that you would use a remote staff for, that you can use remote staff for, right? And I
Right.
guess you're getting that sort of experience now. I kind of want to walk the folks on this call through kind of the experience of onboarding. Um, are there any initial impressions that you remember of Edge when you were first given your first call, or the onboarding experience as a whole?
Um, I just remember folks were very eager to help. Who I talked to was very everything was they basically delivered everything they said they would, right? They would say, I'll get you three candidates on this day. You can come and you can interview. I'll send you the resumes the day before. And I got the resumes. I reviewed them before the interview of the candidates. And then the interview went as smoothly as I expected. And basically, it was just down to me picking the person. And if I made the decision quickly, then the next step is pretty quick. There was no waiting or anything like that.
Yeah, and how do you as a practice owner onboard your new staff? Was it different for the Edge employee, or did you do it the same way that you did it with your in-person staff?
Um, Quite differently, I would say, because in-person staff, I would meet them in person and I would meet several candidates. Well, first talk to them over the phone and meet them in person because I kind of want to talk to them in person to really get a feel. And then before I would give them an offer for the position. So with Edge, there's less of that in-person interaction, obviously, because it's remote. But
Mm.
and actually, in fact, I think the only interaction I had was during that interview process with Arfa before I selected her. So
And when you did eventually hire her and sign an agreement and have her work for you, were there any challenges that you found in the first week or two? And how did you handle those challenges?
challenges, absolutely. It's been a while, so I have to kind of jog my memory. But I think getting the initial VoIP set up, we never had VoIP in the office, so I had to quickly set that up within a week. They have to come install hardware and stuff. So that was that was a little bit of a challenge. Luckily, Edge's IT team was able to help the remote staff on their end to figure everything out, versus me having to provide my own IT support for that aspect. So that was pretty good. I just have to make sure I set up the soft seat for the VoIP service on their end, and then I feel like Edge is IT team was able to help with a lot of the IT issues that we may have encountered. And then, I mean, as with any new employee, there's learning curves to this, right? Even though I think Alpha came with some basic knowledge of how to run OpenDeno, there's certain ways we do things in OpenDeno that's, you know, specific to our practice. So we have to she has to tailor her experience to what we want her to do. But luckily, more or less she is kind of a blank slate, so it's kind of easy to just shape her to what we need her to do.
Yeah, and that's all just a part of just giving her the proper training in the software that you use and how you guys operate and whether and how to translate, being remote and working with the in-person staff as well. Um, that's awesome. And it sounds like there were initial challenges in the beginning. Um, but I wanted to learn more about like how working with your edge employee, how working with them evolved over time. Um, I think like with any employee that you hire, the more they get trained, the more they get accustomed to your practice, things just get easier. Did you find that to be true as
Oh,
well?
absolutely, absolutely. She knows how I want my schedule to be. She knows how much to schedule, what how much time to give to whatever procedure I do. Um, she knows where she can squeeze things, if need be, like if I need to see someone urgently, she doesn't have to get my approval. She can just put them in and it'll like fit well because she knows she's seen them, right? And she knows how insurance claims works, how the procedures we do. She'll keep a list of narratives. We use a lot of um Google Sheet to track things, right? So she's very organized. She could track everything, um, to know that what like narratives and stuff like that. She would have all that stuff. And then um yeah, yeah, so it definitely evolved over time and it is very, very smooth right now.
Awesome. And did you see her role evolve over time as well? Did you give her more responsibility as she got comfortable in some of the initial tasks that you gave her when you first hired her?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. She actually can remotely handle some of the IT issues that we may have here and
And
there.
what?
And sometimes we have problems like, yeah, it's when my server restarts when there's a power outage, whatever, which happens a lot apparently in my area. Sometimes the server gets assigned a new IP address by the router, and then we have to go reset we use the Flex
Mhm.
software to integrate with OpenNano, and then the way how Flex works is they have a link that points to the IP address, specific IP address of the server, and if on their end the IP address is different from my actual server IP address, Flex won't work.
All sounds very technical.
Yeah, very technical. So, I just, I just have her call Flex and she can just, they can just help, she can help Flex remote into the server and they can, actually, no, 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 they don't even have to remote in. I showed her how to check the IP address of the server and just give that to Flex and then Flex will update on their end. And then within 5 minutes, everything will be back and up and running, right? So these things prior to her knowing how to do this would be like me taking care of. I'm kind of the sort of the IT person in the office. I do a lot of the network I kind of set up myself and I kind of have to maintain it myself. But then if now that she can do some of the stuff, it makes things a lot easier.
Awesome. And I think you mentioned before, like in the beginning of the call, how you hired this Edge employee. Uh, can you remind me again how many Edge employees do you have currently?
Edge employees?
Yeah, or employees from Edge. Was it just Arfa?
Sorry, but yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Um, now I know a lot of people on this call are probably, considering hiring remote staff and wondering, what sort of things they need to look out for. You went through the entire process, so I wanted to know from you, what would you recommend to other providers considering remote support? Like, what do you think they have to look out for?
Um, I, I don't think there's anything to look out for. I think it's especially in where I am, the Bay Area, hiring staff locally is very, very pricey. It's very expensive. And I understand it's the cost of living. They need a living wage to be able to survive in this area. So I'm willing to pay whatever's needed in this area for my local staff. But having an edge employee, it's even if you have a fully loaded staff, competent people in your office, I think having an edge employee is going to be a good addition regardless, especially if you're thinking of adding someone already, right? Because a lot of the background work can be done remotely. That doesn't even need to happen in the office. The email, everything, emails, texts, phone call, even phone calls. Alpha takes phone calls too, right? So she can call people, she can text people, she can email people, she can send reports, she can receive X-rays, she can request all this, request all that. And a lot of the insurance stuff, she can be on the phone with the insurance company in the background, right? Without having, because sometimes when you're in the office, you're talking to insurance companies and the front desk, other patients can hear you, and it's a little bit of a you're trying to convey a nice calm environment for the patients in the waiting area, and you can't have a staff member arguing with the insurance company and stuff like that, right? So it's just all that stuff can be shifted to the background, and it's just not. I don't. Yeah. So I think even if you have a good local staff, it's not a bad idea to have someone remote, and it's kind of like a security blanket in a sense, right? Because then what if something happens to your local staff and then they have to move on or and side story about at the same time when I hired Alpha, I also hired a new front desk because I do need a person locally, physically to interact with patients. And she and Alpha they would chat. They communicate on through Google Meet every day. And then the staff person, my local staff suddenly passed away, so there was a lot of tasks that she was doing had to be shifted to Alpha for short term because there was nobody to take care of it. Um, it was just, but luckily because Alpha's there always, right? So even if you have staff turnover for whatever reason, for you know change of job, change of moving, whatever, or death in my case, there's always someone kind of in the background. And I understand Edge, if there's a change of ambassadors, they can help transition from Edge's side. So I don't have to really worry about that as much. But obviously, there's going to be a little bit of onboarding later, but I believe, if there's a transition, if Alpha ends up deciding to leave or finish her, working with Edge, she can help train the next person to the same standard or similar or close to, right, at least. So it's kind of like so your practice doesn't stop, right? Your insurance claims don't stop. Your, everything in the background can still go on, even if there's a staff turnover in your office locally.
That's great. I'm so sorry to hear about the death in your office, but I'm super happy that Edge helped you through that transition phase as well. Great. Well, Dr. Shen, thank you so much. I wanted to open it up for questions to the audience here. If you're in the Zoom chats, feel free to use the Q&A box down at the bottom of your screen to answer or to submit a question. I'll be happy to read it out loud here for Dr. Shen to answer. Um, I, if you're in the LinkedIn Live, feel free to drop a question there as well. I will try to go over there and monitor it right now. Well, we got one question here. Dr. Shen, what were some of your biggest hesitations before bringing on remote staff? And how did you overcome that?
Uh, Hesitations.
Or was it something that you just knew you wanted to take advantage of when you heard about it?
Yeah, okay, we could go back to when I still had a functioning staff without having my office manager having to leave. My hesitation at the time, I think, was just getting everything set up because I realized that there would be a lot of um, IT stuff that needs to be set up. I need to give her a dedicated workstation. I have to set that up. I have to set up VoIP. I have to get her remote login credentials, and without having my office manager having to leave. My hesitation at the time, I think someone's replaying, yeah. But yeah,
Awesome.
anyway, that was kind of the hesitation. But then when my office manager decided to leave, that there was I had to throw all that out. I had to go for it because I know I needed this.
Awesome. And yeah, apologies for beginning of the call and just now. When I access the live stream, it just automatically plays. So I had a little bit of trouble finding the mute button. Another question here. I think you talked about this a little bit, but can you share like a specific example or task or workflow that dramatically improved once ARFA was involved?
Um, I think insurance claims still one of the biggest help that she provided is insurance. It's just all the claims, all the attachments, all the narratives, all the insurance documents, requests for more documents. Because she follows up with insurance all the time. Like she can log into their website, she can check, she could resubmit, she could add stuff, she could change things. And when needed, she can call them all without anybody in the office even knowing she's doing all that stuff. Sometimes we would still get a physical mail from Signal or something that says, "Hey, we're still missing this," and then my local staff would scan it, upload it, and let Alpha know, and Alpha's like, "Oh, I already took care of that like last week," So it's just yeah, I don't think there's any, and then yeah, our insurance accounts receivable is just 3 lines or something, It's just very, very efficient.
Awesome. Just monitoring both chats here. Again, if you have a question in the Zoom call, you can use the Q&A box. I am also, if you're in the LinkedIn Live, you can send the comments in. I'm also monitoring that as well. Give it a few moments here. Um, I'm curious to know how remote support helped you free up your own time. Was there like were you handling a lot of the insurance verification, or did it just give you peace of mind knowing that was being handled so you could just focus on your practice itself?
Yeah, it is a peace of mind because when I have a physical staff taking care of it, I mean, that's probably kind of my issue as well. I never hired a dedicated insurance person in the office, but the cost of doing that in the office locally in the Bay Area is cost prohibitive, right? You have a manager, you're paying a lot of money that she's supposed to be doing all this stuff, but then you end up having to double check her work a little bit once in a while, and things get missed. You just because the sheer volume of work that's required, because she has to interact with patients in the office with
Right.
questions, and then she has to deal with insurance companies on the back and do all the claims and submit all the. It's just I have to micromanage a lot more having no remote stuff support, right? But having the remote support, I don't micromanage anymore because there's nothing I need to micromanage. Um, because well, especially when everything's taken care of so well, it's um, I just yeah that really that frees up my my own for my own well-being, right? Yeah.
Right. That's that's awesome to have, is peace of mind. That's what we're trying to do. That's what we're trying to provide for, all dental practices, medical and insurance agencies as well. And so, Dr. Shen, we're at time here. I wanted to ask just one more thing. Anything else that you wanted to share, um, kind of about your experience working with Edge? Any last words that you want to impart before we end here?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think I recommend a lot of people to use Edge. I think for the most part, everybody's experience is pretty good. Um, Obviously, there's occasionally because when I recommend them something, when they have issues, they turn to me sometimes, to, hey, this is happening to you as well. But occasionally, I think because the ambassador end up having to leave or something, then it puts a little bit strain on their practice. But I think eventually all works out because Edge does provide I think it was 2 weeks or something of overlap or something like that. But then they help you select a new candidate. So I think I hear about those things not because I'm working, not because I work for Edge or anything, but just because my friends who actually I recommended to Edge sometimes ask me stuff, right? So, but I think overall, I wouldn't change. I still wouldn't change my recommendation regardless, right? Because I think it's a wonderful service to have at a very reasonable cost. I think you get such a good support for such a reasonable cost. I think um it's invaluable.
That's awesome. I'm seeing hearts and claps and things in the LinkedIn chats. Dr. Shen, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us today. It was a pleasure. Uh, Everyone, have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll catch you in the next webinar. Thanks again. Take
Thank you.
care.